very good question, and I'm just about halfway through the tasting, so I've really only tasted the left bank, so the Medoc and the Grave. I haven't actually tasted the Saint-Emilion and the Pomerols as yet. I came in very high expectations because of all the prior reports of 2015. As you say, it was hyped up as probably the best vintage since 2010. Having said that, 16 is fast, taking a competing stage on that. This is not about the 16s, but the 15s showing very well today, I think. What I found really interesting was I was expecting, given the weather reports and the initial reports on 15, that they would be really, really very rich and ripe, and they are. There's a ripeness to all the wines, which is absolutely fantastic. It's the very beautiful quality and purity of fruit and identity of fruit. But what I found really fascinating so far, going from Saint-Estèphe down to Pessa-Léognan, is just how distinct, given that ripeness, how distinct the communal differences between Saint-Estèphe, Pauillac, Saint-Julien, Margaux, and Pessa-Léognan are. They're showing communal differences, and within each commune, what I found fascinating was how well the classification seems to work. So the fifth growths, by and large, were behaving like the fifth growths. The second growths were behaving like the second growths, and the super seconds, or the so-called ones who seem to be sort of competing the first growths in quality, seem to be really excelling themselves. We have no first growths at the tasting today, but this is for me quite fascinating that, given the richness and ripeness of vintage, I was expecting the quality, the style of the vintage to overpower character, but in fact it seems to have pointed up the character of the wine. So I find 215 really quite interesting, and there will be those variations in quality which are very much in line with the classification. I think it'll be very well received, because there's, so far, all the wines I've tasted, and one of the issues with Cabernet Sauvignon dominated wines, which is the bank where I've been tasting so far, is its ability to ripen. And there's no sense of unripeness in any of these wines. They're beautifully ripened Cabernet Sauvignon. They're showing character of the commune. I think it'll be very well received in my market, and probably in Asia generally, actually. Okay, for me, EnPrimeurs is really about that sensorial experience and tasting them, and it's always very interesting to taste them out of barrel or before blending, or the final blend before they're bottled, versus what happens in the bottling, because actually it's a very interesting comparison for me. It gives me an opportunity to sort of get a sense of where the value in the market is, and there's always a slight quality, no matter how good or how expensive a vintage might be, there's always value to be found in any of these things. So EnPrimeurs, or doing a tasting like this, which is 1 year later, which I find much more useful because just before the bottling, actually gives me a real sense of where I might find potential value once it is bottled. So yes, now I do find these very useful. That's probably slightly a nerdy, geeky sort of thing from a professional perspective. Most consumers may not like doing this thing because it's still quite tough to taste these wines at this age out of barrel or just before they're bottled. But for a professional like me to be able to give recommendations based on what I'm assessing and seeing, it's a fantastic opportunity.